Steak, and today we're going to learn how to properly talk to your butcher, because people think they got to go up to the butcher and be like, oh yeah, I know what I want, exactly this thing. But you should actually be asking questions.
Absolutely. You should always ask questions to your butcher, especially your mom and pop type of butcher, your small. But if you don't feel comfortable going into a spot that you've never been to, then you could always go into a Whole Foods where people are actually trained when it comes to what cuts of beef for use for what reasons or what situations. But you should never be afraid to talk to any of the vendors that you buy food from.
So if you're getting something from the butcher, you can specify what you want.
Absolutely.
So how much do you need per person?
I'm going to say a good portion size, depending on how many courses you're having. That the best way to go about it is a 6 to 8 ounce portion per person. This way, if you're having a couple of courses throughout, this way you don't get too full and you're able to enjoy everything.
Right.
But if you're just going with a summer grilling day and you want to have big steaks on the grill and you're there to impress and have a good time, well, then you could go a little heavier on the side.
Right.
And depending on the size of the fella you got there.
Right, exactly.
Of course.
If you have someone who eats a lot, maybe you can
Absolutely,
do a little
absolutely.
bit more. And then let's also talk about, the types of cuts that you can get. Because I think a lot of people go up to a butcher, they say, I want a steak. But I mean, that could mean a ton of different things. So what should you be asking for?
For a novice beef eater who doesn't really enjoy a whole lot of flavor in their steak, they might go towards a tenderloin. Or they think that a tenderloin is the softest steak and it's the easiest to eat, so that's their safe zone.
Right.
Okay? Where if you want to have a little bit more flavor and a little bit more texture in your meat, then that's when you go towards a sirloin or a ribeye and even a porterhouse, where you still have, especially on a porterhouse, you still have your filet cut, so you're still going to have that tender filet, but you're going to get a lot of flavor from the bone that runs through the porterhouse. And then on the other side, you have the more textured steak on the strip side of the porterhouse. So you get the best of both worlds. So usually if I'm sharing for two, I'll cut the filet off for my wife and I'll have the strip on myself.
Just take the bigger portion and just move it for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then what about, the way the meat is trimmed? Are there certain things that you can ask your butcher to do that will enhance the quality of your steak?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So obviously, depending on what you're asking for, if you want the bone in on your New York strip, or if you want a 2-inch cut, a 1-inch cut, you could just specify those things. And also tell the butcher what you're doing. So if I say, I go to my local butcher and I say, hey, I want to make a really good flavorful stew, but I don't want a ton of fat. Well, he's going to steer you towards a sirloin side of a cut, or he's going to steer you towards an eye round for a roast, and he's going to actually give you, but tell him what you're making and tell him what you're trying to do. They'll also go as far as taking a piece of tenderloin and opening it up for you if you're going to stuff it or roll it. They actually are pretty approachable when you talk to them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for giving us these tips on how to properly talk to our butcher.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.